everyone, today we're going to talk about dehydrators, what they are, how to use them. You'd be surprised, there'll be some people who actually are having problems dehydrating, which is like one of the easiest things in the world to do, and we're going to tell you what you're probably doing wrong. Anyway, let me tell you first what dehydrators are and why they are good, because some people think dehydrated stuff is not as good for you as fresh, juicy food, which in some degree is right, but in some degree they're wrong. Let me tell you why. First of all, I made a video about fresh versus powdered, and this is kind of in the process because powder is made for dehydration. Moisture is an oxidant, which means oxidation is like rust. So if you leave fruit out on the shelf for like a week or two, it starts getting moldy, which is like the fruit version of rusting. The moisture is causing it to decay and rust and oxidize. If you were to take the same fruit, pluck it from a tree, cut it, dehydrate it, you could eat it a year later and still have nutritional value on it. Now some of you think you're going to lose all the vitamins and everything like that. That's not true either. They tested oranges that were picked 2 weeks ago, trucked across the country to a warehouse, sold in a store, in a grocery store, and then they tested, it had no vitamin C left in it whatsoever. So just because it's juicy doesn't mean it has all the vitamins. The minute you pick something, the vitamins start getting lost. But if you were to dehydrate it, it locks in vitamin C. Then its herbal state is actually a high antioxidant because of the tannins. Well, if it's dehydrated, it can last up to 10 years in a dehydrated state. Dehydrated food definitely has its place if you're traveling, just for snacks. It'll last like months or years, and it's great. It's good for you. There are certain things, obviously, that fresh is great, but eating fresh from a tree or a plant is how you should be doing it. Anything you buy in a store that was picked 2 weeks ago, I can guarantee you a lot of the nutrition has been lost on it. So you want to capture that if you want to keep, letting a fresh fruit sit on the shelf for a week or two. You're going to have a lot less nutritional value than if you actually dehydrated it right away. So let me give you the basics of dehydration. 118 degrees is the magic number that you want to keep remembering. 118 Fahrenheit or 45 Celsius. That's the temperature at which, beyond which, things start dying. The life force, the enzymes in the food start dying. If you were to take an apple and plant it in the ground, you'd get an apple tree. But if you bake the apple, cook the apple, boil the apple, and then plant it in the ground, nothing happens. It's dead. Heat is what killed it. Anything above 118 Fahrenheit, 45 Celsius kills the life force in the food. You don't want to go above that. That's what a dehydrator does. It warms it, but not, if you set the temperature right, not above 118 degrees. We live in the desert here in Vegas. It gets to be 118 degrees in the direct sunlight in the middle of the day. If we were to put seeds out there and bake them in the sun on 118 degrees, you could plant them and they would still grow. But if you put them in an oven, 300 degrees, they'd be dead. You plant them, nothing would happen. So a dehydrator still warms your food, but it doesn't kill your food. You still have the health benefits from it. It also makes the food last. So you can keep it in the car, in the shelf, and eat it months or a year later. So that's kind of the basis of dehydration. A dehydrator is basically just a box that has a low temperature heating coil in it with a thermostat that you adjust to whatever temperature you want, and it has a fan that blows that warm air around inside the box, so all the different levels and trays have heat evenly distributed amongst them. We have a couple here. This is a
Excalibur 9 tray.
This is this Excalibur 9 tray. It's just the basic plastic one that Excalibur sells. They also have like a half size. And they also have a more expensive one here at glass stores and a digital thermostat and all that stuff. But you can buy cheap ones too. Like at Fry's Electronics, they have them for 35 bucks. I'm sure you can get them at Walmart, Target, whatever. You're online. There's dehydrators for 30, 40, 50 bucks that work just as good. So I don't want to hear people say, I can't afford a dehydrator. Someday I'll buy one. I mean, come on. This is a great way to have snack food. We make garlic naan, which we're going to show you here in a second, and a lot of other amazing things that you can make in a dehydrator. We just put a recipe out that's like the simplest one in the world. Cut some pineapple slices, put it in there, and you get candy. And some people actually email and said, it's not working. It's still mushy after overnight. It should be in 3-4 hours. You should have dried fruit. Why is it not working? Well, I'm going to tell you. First of all, make sure the temperature's set right, 118 degrees. I mean, put a thermometer in there or something. It might change a little bit depending on humidity. If you're living in a humid area versus we're in the dry air like we are, but that shouldn't be that much of a difference. If it's 118 degrees, it should be drying. Secondly, the biggest reason why people are having problems is the stuff that you've got a tray. On that tray goes one of two things. A Teflex sheet, which is basically wax paper, which you can reuse, or a mesh sheet, which comes in plastic or metal or whatever. This has holes in it, this doesn't. This is for gooey, saucy stuff.
Wet stuff.
Wet stuff. This is for thicker, drier things that don't go through holes.
And this is for when wet
Right.
stuff gets
So
halfway dry.
what a lot of people do is they put their stuff on like a sheet like this, and it gets kind of hard and crusty on top, but it stays gooey underneath because the air can't escape. It can't dry. So what you have to do is, let a crust form on top, and then after like an hour, 2 hours, whatever, and it gets a little hard on top, then you take it out and you flip it over, peel this thing off, and transfer.
Let's just show them.
Yeah, we're going to show you how to do it.
Okay, so I have some garlic naan batter already made. Once again, this is liquid. And if it goes on the mesh sheet, it will fall through. So on the solid sheet, it will form a crust on the top, enabling the chef to flip it over and dry on the other side. A circle or whatever shape you want. We make the cookies exactly like this. You have got to flip it. But the pineapple, you could put it on the screen. So, okay. So here we go. I spread my naan on the hard counter, and now it's ready to slide onto the tray and place into the dehydrator. So I'm going to put it in here on 118 for about an hour and a half, and I'm going to come back to it and it'll be ready to flip. So it's been about an hour and a half, and I'm going to flip the naan, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be an hour and a half. It could be 2 hours, 1 hour. It just depends on where you live and whether the top is hard or not. So if you touch it, you see it's hard enough. It doesn't have to be totally hard, but just hard enough where it's not going to fall through the little holes in the mesh. So based on this, I'm going to flip it now. Just so you know, if I kept this in the dehydrator for 5 days, it would still not be cooked through. I had a lady tell me she had her naan in the dehydrator for 3 days and it was still soft and runny. It was because she didn't flip it. There is no way air can get to the underside of this while it's on this sheet. So here is the mesh sheet. I'm going to place it on top of the bread. Take this and I'm going to flip it over and gently place it like that. And then with both my hands, I'm going to quickly flip it and slowly remove the paper and the sheet. Still very liquidy. And this is the only way you're going to get it to dry out all the way, is by using this important mesh sheet. So I'm going to put it back in the dehydrator. Now that it's flipped and the soft side is on the top, for 2, 3, 4 hours, here it'd take about 2.5 hours. We still are in the desert. It's really dry here. May take a little longer if you're in somewhere with a little more humidity. But Marcus likes his super, super crispy. I like mine a little on the soft side, so I guess it's just personal preference. I've also got some kiwis going. They're delicious. Got some chocolate pineapple going on. Here's the cookie jar. Got some more pineapple. These kiwis are so good. They're even more delicious than the pineapple. Cookies. And then these, you can see the video at spygirlrecipe.com. It just doesn't look as good as it tastes, but that's just the protein powder on it, and it is delicious. Guilt-free snacking.
And this is just some of the things we make. We make lots of stuff in the dehydrator, like
Pizza.
meat substitutes,
Yeah, nature burger,
bologna,
bacon, the chicken Kiev, stuffing. Oh, I'd love to dry out my tomatoes. I love to make onion rings, and the possibilities are endless with the dehydrator, but you need to flip it onto the sheet, and then you'll have great luck.
Flip it good. Hey everyone, everyone. Today we're going to talk about dehydrators, what they are, how to use them. You'd be surprised. There'd be some people who actually are having problems dehydrating, which is like one of the easiest things in the world to do. And we're going to tell you what you're probably doing wrong. Anyway, let me tell you first what dehydrators are and why they are good, because some people think dehydrated stuff is not as good for you as fresh, juicy food, which in some degree is right, but in some degree they're wrong. Let me tell you why. First of all, I made a video about fresh versus powdered, and this is kind of in the process because powder is made for dehydration. Moisture is an oxidant, which means oxidation is like rust. So if you leave fruit out on the shelf for like a week or two, it starts getting moldy, which is like the fruit version of rusting. The moisture is causing it to decay and rust and oxidize. If you were to take the same fruit, pluck it from a tree, cut it, dehydrate it, you could eat it a year later.